So let's start with the full segment, and let's start with Oklahoma because we gotta dig deep in what's happening here right now. And what I mean is here is because I live here and I deal with this personally. Because this is not just a bad policy; it's a political abuse wrapped in patriotism, and it's not just about Oklahoma either. What's happening here is a warning for teachers in public schools across the country. So let's start with the headline. Ryan Walters, Oklahoma State Superintendent of Public Instruction. He just announced that all school districts in the state will now be required to offer universal free lunches, no matter their size, location, or budget. Now, that sounds good on paper. Everybody, we don't want starving children. Free lunch for every kid? It's like, what kind of monster wouldn't support that? But here's the problem, guys. Here's the massive catch. And it's not just a budget issue. It's not just a budget issue. Walters didn't secure a single extra dollar in state funding to pay for the new mandate. No increase in per pupil funding, new emergency support grants, not even a promise of future reimbursement. He just wanted every school district in the state a new bill and just figure out, he just wanted schools to figure out this. So now school boards, superintendents, and principals are stuck making an impossible choice. Do they fire staff to pay for food? Do they cut elective programs or cancel bus routes? Do they eliminate after-school tutoring or reduce special education services? Because none of this was budgeted. None of this was planned. And the same state legislature that has spent years underfunding Oklahoma schools is still refusing to invest in actual support for students. What Walter has done here is the political equivalent of handing you a drowning child and walking away while smiling for the cameras. He gets to say he cares about the hungry children, but he's offloading the real cost and labor to already exhausted educators and then setting them up for failure. And then just take my word for it. School districts across the state have sounded the alarm. In interviews with Oklahoma Voice, News 9, and KOCO, district leaders warned this could lead to drastic cuts and layoffs and long-term damage to already under-resourced schools. Hunger Free Oklahoma, a nonprofit that works on school nutrition access, even said this is impossible to sustain without state investment. This is the same Ryan Walters who claims he's fighting for parents while literally making schools decide between feeding kids or keeping counselors on staff. So let that sink in. And it's not an isolated incident. It's a pattern, a consistent pattern of performative governance where the cruelty is the point. This is a man who talks about parental rights but trashes teachers, who brags about small government but keeps expanding his own department's power, who says that he supports students but only when there's a TV camera nearby, or when he decides to sit inside his car and do his little Twitter rants. And right on the heels of that disaster, Walter dropped something even more chilling. I know, hungry children is going starving is bad, but here's what the other part goes. He decided to say the America First Teacher Assessment. So let me explain what that is, because it sounds like a sketch from the Colbert Report, but is a real policy being developed right now in Oklahoma. Here's what Walters is proposing. If you're a certified teacher from California, New York, any other so-called quote-unquote liberal state, and you want to move to Oklahoma to teach, you'll be required to take and pass an ideological test before you're allowed into the classroom. Not a competency exam, not a teaching certificate review, a value test. And he's working directly with PragerU. Yes, that PragerU that is a propaganda machine, to develop the content for this America First assessment. According to multiple outlets, including News 9, KOCO, and News on 6, the test will focus on the following: understanding of the U.S. Constitution, commitment to American exceptionalism, denial of Marxist ideology, and belief in biological differences between boys and girls. Yes, the last one is literally on the test. Walters confirmed this himself. This is a litmus test for political alignment masquerading as teacher certification. And make no mistake, this is not about quality control, it's about ideological control. Now, if you're listening to this and you're an educator, this should alarm you deeply, no matter where you live, because what Walters is doing here is open discrimination. He's targeting teachers based on the state they live in, which is likely unconstitutional under the Privilege and Immunities Clauses in Article 4 of the United States Constitution. Hey, listen, Larry Walters, if you're listening, I know my constitutional rights. States cannot discriminate against citizens of the other states when it comes to fundamental rights, and that includes the right to pursue your chosen profession. Furthermore, legal scholars have already pointed out that this policy could violate the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment because it applies a different standard to teachers based solely on geographic origin and presumed political ideology. Let me repeat that. Walters isn't testing all teachers, just the ones from blue states. That's targeted ideological gatekeeping and is unconstitutional as hell. And it gets worse because he's not creating this test in consultation with educators, historians, or constitutional scholars. He's creating it with PragerU, a private media outlet known for pushing climate change denial, anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric, and whitewash history. They're a propaganda machine. PragerU is not accredited. It's not subject to peer review. It's not a curriculum provider. It's a propaganda outlet with deep ties to far-right billionaire networks. And now they're writing the rules for who gets to teach in Oklahoma. Think about the precedent that sets. We're entering an era where teacher certification could depend not on your training, experience, or compassion for kids, but whether you pledge allegiance to a specific political narrative. If you're not American enough by their standards, you are out. If your history lessons include racism, colonialism, or queer rights, or black rights, or anything like that, you're out. If you believe gender is a spectrum, or that slavery was bad, or that democracy requires nuance, you're out. And while all this is happening, schools are hemorrhaging staff. Oklahoma already has a severe teacher shortage. Districts are hiring emergency certified substitutes. Some schools have multiple classes being taught by long-term substitutes with no teaching experience. And instead of fixing that, Walters is putting up ideological walls to keep out qualified educators who don't pass his patriotism filter. It's absurd, it's dangerous, and it's clearly designed to intimidate current teachers too. Let's be honest, this isn't just about out-of-state teachers. It's about Oklahoma teachers as well. This test is a message. Get in line politically or you're next. That's how authoritarianism works. It starts with the outsiders, then comes for the insiders. All of this, the fake lunch policy, the loyalty oaths for teachers, the war on DEI, the censorship, the culture war curriculum, it's all tied together. This is not about improving education. It's about weaponizing, making it up for he can get voucher in private education so he can push for state funding to go to private Christian or religious schools, mainly Christian schools. It's about punishing teachers who challenge whitewash narratives. It's about rewarding those who parrot state-approved myths. It's about creating a school system where students are fed propaganda instead of meals, and teachers are vetted for political obedience instead of skill. Meanwhile, the actual problem, student hunger, underfunding, trauma, mental health, staff burnout, those get ignored, or worse, they blamed it on the teachers. And the same people pushing this garbage, Walters, Stitt, DeSantis, Abbott, are the ones handing out the tax breaks to oil companies and charter schools chains while bleeding public education dry. Sorry, I forgot to mention Mullen and Langford and our awesome representative here in this area, Tom Cole. And by awesome, I mean very sarcastically. He's terrible. They always say there's no money. But there's always money for billionaires, for consultants, for religious schools, for cameras and microphones. There's just never enough for your kids' lunch on your classroom or your classroom library. So what do we do with all this? You have to fight it. We have to fight this. We don't just get outraged. We organize. We have to push the lawsuits. We push with lawsuits. We show up to board meetings. We support educators when they speak out. Because right now, we're being silenced. And we call it this as a state-sponsored educational repression. Now, I'm getting passionate because this is my job. I love teaching. I love doing everything I do. But I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that I'm gonna. Never mind. It's just, it's very, very sad. Now, and I want to remind every teacher here, all my teacher friends, all the future teachers who want to be here in Oklahoma, keep fighting. You deserve to be here. You're not woke because you believe in inclusion. You are actually a human being who actually cares about each kid. You're not unpatriotic because you teach accurate history. You're not disposable, no matter what Walters and his little parrots instead says, and his political donors think. You, the teachers. The teachers are the reason the kids are still showing up. You are the reason the system hasn't collapsed entirely, and you are the frontline defense against the kind of authoritarian ideology they're trying to sneak in through the back door of public schools. I got your back. We got your back. And we will keep sounding the alarm every time they try to starve our schools or silence our voices. This isn't just a policy debate. It's a fight for the soul of public education and the future of our kids.